Friends, in some of my previous video, I explained the normal method of teaching literature up to plus 2 level. And I tried my best to follow the teaching methodology suggested in B.Ed course. But when we teach literature, we must have our own ideas, innovated ideas, sometimes. And that helps us to explain things better, and that also helps a student to follow it in very comprehensive manner, easy to understand, in our own simplified language. But in that video, I could not focus on one particular poem. Rather, I shared the points of teaching poem or poetry. But here in this video, I will concentrate on one particular poem and how a teacher is expected to teach in effective manner, following the norms of teaching as per suggestion of CBSC board and the B.Ed books and the scholarly mind teachers too. So here the poem is Road Not Taken. Just suppose I start and in this particular period. See, first of all, we instruct the student to open the book on a certain page number, then write the title on the blackboard, ask them to hold the pencil to note down the meaning of certain words and the poetic expression, literary terms. But before that, brief introduction, the background of the poem. And if you want to discuss something more, then it will take more than one period, but you can go for that. There must be flexibility in your approach, your individual style. So before you start the poem, you can ask the questions, not sometimes, not on regular basis, but sometimes. What actually poem is? What do you mean by poem? And then you just explain it in one or two lines. That poem is intense arrangement of words, arrangement of thought, expression of innermost feeling with great intensity and emotion, and it must carry a message, and it should be full of insight. Then only the poem and poetry is justified, because here the scope is very limited with certain few lines only. And you can also share, because being a poet, I have the privilege, I know how actually to come up with a nice poem, what leads a poet to compose a certain poem, because there are different sort of poem. Some reflects nature, some reflect bravery, some reflect social thought. Varieties of poems are there. So I myself is a poet, and I compose some poems. So I better know what leads to create poem or compose poem. Sometimes we focus on a certain issue and the lines comes out automatically, because this is a skill. But sometimes it happens automatically. You are deeply moved by a certain situation. Like I was sitting on the edge of Ganga river, on the bank of river Ganga, and I was deeply moved to see Ganga, the flowing Ganga, the historical importance, and we have the emotional feeling attached to river Ganga. So I composed a poem in Hindi. The style is same, language may be different, and I also compose poems in English too. So I can share my own experience, what leads somebody to compose poem. That is the background of poem. Now coming back to the main point, this was additional. You may go for that, just spend 10 odd minutes, but it will help student to understand what actually poem is, poetry is, art of poetry, and how the situations leads to compose poem. Then when you focus on that particular poem, you firstly introduce the poet, then style of that poet, but in very brief manner. Firstly, you will say Robert Frost, who is the composer of that poem. Robert Frost is an American poet, and he is the most renowned figure, poetic figure, poet in his contemporary age. He has got maximum number of awards the Pulitzer Award for 4 times. And then most number of universities invited him as a guest lecturer. A number goes up to more than 50. That is that is there in biography. And style of poem, he comes up with the kind of poem which is very simple but carrying deep insight. His poems are in conversational tone, like somebody is talking to you, not very complex lines. And this poem too, the present poem which we are to start. So his style is very lucid, very simple, and full of rhyming scheme. So that is his speciality that students must know. And these things are done in extra detail in the college, because their professor has got the privilege of completing poem. No stipulated frame of time is there to cover the entire course curriculum. And here I am not going to for actual presentation. I am just trying to explain what are the things we are supposed to do while explaining poem. Now, introduction, style over. Now we should concentrate and focus on the poem. I haven't got the book, but it is in my memory. At least the sum and substance, the lines are there, 4 stanzas are there. Firstly, we will go for literal explanation. The poet has compared the whole world like a dense forest, and we are the traveler. We have lost the way. We have reached to the point where we are confused. We have to make choices. There are too many choices. Path is diverged into 2 ways. Sometimes possible, maybe more than 2 ways. Then we have to make choice, and we have to move ahead with a proper planning, because life is full of opportunities. In the second stanza, he says that finally I decided that I will choose the path traveled by less number of people. Then there is a hidden idea that we will explain later. The literal meaning that he made the choice, path traveled by less number of people. In the third stanza, he says, finally that specific day came, I started moving ahead on a certain path, but I thought that if possible, I will come back and travel on the other path as well to experience the life. It was, in theory, it sounds great to experience varieties of all the possible path, but practically it is not possible. That we will discuss later on. Then in the fourth stanza, when the journey is over, when we share our experiences to the next generation, that our life, our journey is complete, and what actually we got in return, what sort of experience. The literal explanation will be over. Then the most important thing, to discuss the theme, and we can discuss other things as well, which is suggested but not fixed norm. It depends on particular poem. Here we are going to discuss in the classroom with the students. Students, do you think that life is full of opportunities? We have to make choices, the difficult choices. Sometimes we get confused in dilemma, what should we do, what we are expected to do, the expectation of parents, the desire of particular student. So the scene depicts the same situation as it happens with each and every student in practical life that we are going to discuss. The students will share their opinion, and then we will discuss about the theme. The theme, central idea underlying, and sum and substance are synonymous. It cannot be hugely different, partially different. So first literal explanation, then the central idea. The central idea of this poem is that life is very, complex affair. It is full of choices. We have to be extremely careful while making choices, because making choices doesn't mean buying things. Making decision that will shape our future, that will shape our destiny. And once we do that, thereafter, after some years, with passing phase of time, when we move ahead, it is never possible to go on the other way. Now here we will give examples as well. Like, see, the case of Gandhiji. Gandhiji, his whole course of journey, Now, at a very important point, he was thrown out of the compartment with all his belongings. That was the turning point. The path diverged into two ways. Like, one choice was to be in complete understanding, to obey the command of the English people who thrown him out of the compartment, bow down and go to the next compartment, lead life with luxury. He was educated, he was an advocate, earning quite high. So choice was there. Just don't feel bad and just complete the journey in the second class compartment. In that case, he would have never been Mahatma, a successful lawyer. But he decided to choose the other path, full of difficulties, traveled by less number of people, and that was to renounce the worldly life. He didn't become sannyasi, but he became Mahatma. Very few people make such choices, and that is what it is explained in the poem. And his life was shaped according to that. Had he been a successful lawyer, then he would have been a public figure. That was the extreme possibility. But here he became father of nation. He became the adorable figure worldwide on global basis. So it shaped his destiny. That is what we will help a student to understand. This happens. Each one of us is not Gandhi, but sometimes we take decision and our future is shaped according to that. So the theme of the poem is life is full of choices. We have to be extremely careful, and once we make a certain choice, it will shape our destiny. The sum and substance is that we have to be very focused, determined, extremely careful while making choices. We need to have an extraordinary courage when we opt for the difficult choice. Just suppose you fix the aim to be an IAS. It is very difficult. You need to have extra amount of courage, skill, determination, resilience, all the high sounding adjectives. Then you capitalize the dream. And if you say fix the aim to open a beetle shop or to the ordinary things in life, life will be a cakewalk. It will be an easy affair. And people generally go for the easy choice. So that is the sum and substance. Now what actually the message is? The message of the poet is that you should have the complete understanding about the process of life. Life is not about studying in school at class 10 level. Life is open book itself, and you have to go through the entire content. One day you will come to the end of your life, but at the fag end you may have the realization, self-realization that we have wasted opportunities. We didn't make choices well, and that is why we missed a certain thing in our life. That is the message to humanity, that make right choices at the elementary level. Make right choices at the most decisive point of your life. This is the message to humanity. So literal explanation, sum and substance, idea underlying, the central idea, the theme, and lastly the message. But while completing poem, we'll expect, since I do not have the written text, I do not follow each and every line and all the words, but we have to explain the literary terms, the rhyming pattern, then our teaching will be complete. Like in this particular poem, as I said, that his poem, Robert Frost's poem, is full of rhyming scheme, rhyming words. So when you read it aloud, you will have a feeling that there is some sort of continuity, there is some sort of means you can go for the recitation in the easiest manner, effective manner. So in the first stanza, the word is stood, could, growth, both and growth, stood and would. These are the rhyming pattern of words. Then in some other stanza like fair, hence, difference, fair, and I'm not getting the right word. So this rhyming scheme, rhyming words will be highlighted by the students and the teachers as well, helping together in coordination. In a very nutshell, you will do that. Then the literary terms, like I said, that most of the Robert Frost creation is metaphorical expression. So the very same, this is the poem. It is in metaphorical form, and in the lines too, you will find out the different literary terms. I think the first one is metaphor, like yellow wood, metaphor. In Hindi, you say upama. You compare your face to the moon. It is metaphorical expression. So the yellow wood compared to the dense forest, experienced and complex life full of complexities, means this year-long civilization. So there is sense of comparison. The dense wood, that means old forest, and this old civilization life which is moving ahead. Comparison, metaphor. Then simile, just as fair. Just as fair means comparison. And whenever there is comparison with something, that is similarity. And then comes metaphor, and personification. Personification is in the third stanza perhaps. Personification, like, yes, in third stanza. Grassy and wanted wear. This wear and tear is associated with the worldly things and the humans as well. Wear and tear. So it is the personification. When it is related to the humans, the things, then it is personification. Like human, in this word is related with humans, wear and tear and things as well. So you will explain the literary terms, but not going by extra detail, because at school level, I repeated also in the previous video, that these literary terms, the very common one that a student is supposed to know. In Shakespearean text, you will find the iambic pentameter, the sonnet composition. So different literary terms are there. There is no need of having complete understanding of all the existing literary terms in school level. In school level, our main objective, main motto is help them to have complete command on language, over language, spoken form, written as well. That should be the main motto. Now, to have complete understanding of English literature, covering phonetics, covering history of English literature, all the existing poet, different poetic phase, all the important creations, that we are supposed to do when we become a specialist in English and we complete post-graduation. In a foolish manner, if we try to do things at a very elementary level, like in the middle classes, if we go for poetic style and explanation in class 7 and 6, it would be injustice. So here I tried to explain the way of teaching poetry and a particular poem that was up to +2 level only. And I did it again, as I have been doing in almost all the videos, then in a hurried manner, unplanned manner. That is not an excuse, but I tried my best. I have no text right now, so I would have highlighted some more rhyming pattern and literary terms. But in any case, I tried my best to explain, and hopefully you will have a little understanding at least how the teachers teach a poem, and you will have the clear-cut idea. Poem doesn't mean the literal explanation, completing and a recitation, and then it comes to the end. It's very serious affair when you teach a poetry, when you teach a poem, because it contains different sort of ideas. Being poet, coming up with variety of composition, it's a very rare thing. Poets are very rare. The writers are many.